Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to today's event. I'm Jason Gumper from MSDynamicsWorld.com. I'm pleased to welcome you to the first in what will be a series of sessions that highlight various solutions from the Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365 Business Central ecosystem. It's a format that we're really excited to kick off here, and we're glad to have you with us. I'll just tell you a tiny bit more about the format and a little bit of housekeeping before we get going. So today is all about getting a very quick and efficient opportunity to learn about solutions in the Dynamics NAV Business Central space. We have three presenters on the line who I'm going to just briefly introduce here. They're each going to have about 16 minutes to tell you a little bit and show you a little bit about what their companies and their solutions are all about. And when they do, we also welcome your questions. So we have presenters from K-eCommerce, Wolters Kluwer, and Metafile are here today. I'm going to hand things off to our first real presenter in just a moment here. You can ask questions at any point through the Q&A block you should see to the right of the main presentation area. If you don't see the Q&A, look for the little question mark icon just above, kind of in the upper right of the WebEx window, and that should enable it for you. We'll be saving all of those till the end. We'll make sure we get to all of those questions. So I think that's about it for the housekeeping and introductions. I'm eager to turn things over to our presenters to get started. So our first presenter is going to be Ryan Burnham of K-eCommerce. Ryan, welcome to the event. I am giving you control now, and welcome. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jason. So my name is Ryan Burnham. I'm the solution engineer here at K-eCommerce. So I'll take us through what we do at K-eCommerce. So we do integrated e-commerce solutions. So at a very high level, that's a website that you can sell your products, services on, be it retail or wholesale, distribution, manufacturing. Doesn't really matter the type of business that you're running or your strategy, but you can really adapt the solution accordingly and connect it to Microsoft Dynamics NAV or Dynamics 365 Business Central, whichever version that you're on. And so what we do is we connect it and we really simplify your maintenance, so maintaining product information and customer accounts, all that that's already maintained in Dynamics. What we do is we will run off of that information and we'll make sure that that's all synchronized with the website. And then anytime an order comes in, obviously our main goal here is to integrate and automate the order process so that every order that comes in is created without the need for human intervention on your end, and also making sure that we're eliminating any human error. What's great as well is we're not just creating the orders, but it's the whole post-sale service that will also be really enhanced here for the customer, because they'll be able to view any of the order tracking. They'll be able to see all of their past invoices as well. So it's going to eliminate the need for the customer to pick up the phone and call one of your salespeople or customer service to follow up on orders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us through the user experience overall. So one of your customers who comes in and wants to interact with you through the website. And then we'll have a look at the order in Dynamics 365 Business Central. And then lastly, I'll take us through a quick review of the content management system, so how you can maintain the website on an ongoing basis. So this store that I've built up is a men's fashion store. It can be both business to business or business to consumer. It's really just configurable in that sense, and I'll talk through the differences as we go through. And I figured it'd be appropriate to go through a men's fashion store. I'd like to say I'm a bit of an expert, and that's just a little bit of a joke there. So what I want to do here is I want to log in because I'm an existing customer. I already exist in Business Central. I already have an account. And so when I log in here, it's going to personalize the overall experience for me. What it's going to do is it's going to show me my last 5 orders chronologically, because this is something that as a customer I want to have. I want to be able to view information really quickly and view everything that's personalized to me. Specifically, when we talk business to business, this is what your customers are looking for. They're looking for a one-stop shop for all of their account information. So they want to see their last 5 orders. They can drill into any of these, of course. And then they also want to be able to see products that they order on a fairly regular basis. So we're personalizing this experience. When we talk business to business, here's where your customers are going to be able to come into one page, add a whole bunch of products to their carts that they generally order on a fairly regular basis, and then from there, just in a couple of clicks, confirm an order. For the retail side, so if you're dealing with consumers directly, we also want to personalize that experience so that they can see items that are based off of what they've already purchased and also the items that they've purchased in the past. So that's why I'm seeing these 4 frequently ordered products. Now, if I take us through the idea of, I have a wedding coming up in a couple of months and I'm looking to buy a new suit. So what I have to do there is I have to go through and I have to find that product. So I can go through the different categories if we want to go through that and we want to organize the products accordingly. Or if I'm more business to business and I just want to reorder a bunch of products to add to my inventory of my location of my store, then what I can do is I can go through a quick order tool and add items to cart directly through SKUs or SKU searches and then quantities. So there's a number of different ways for customers to add to cart and be able to confirm orders. So we give them any tool that they want or every tool that's geared towards their type of business, the way that they want to interact with you, to make it very easy for them. Because at the end of the day, we want to make it very quick and very convenient to do business with you. We can't make it hard. So I'm going to go on to this suit here, and we're going to see there's additional information on this suit. So when we talk about the integration to Dynamics NAV or 365 Business Central, really our goal here is to add as much additional information as possible so that customers can view everything that they might need because they are doing research at the same time. So for this item, things like your item title, your product code, all of your pricing, and this is customer-specific pricing as well, right out of Dynamics. Things like your attributes, your images, all of that you're already maintaining in NAV or Business Central, you can have that come through to the website. So what's great here is you already are maintaining information in one place. We can push it up to the website so you're not having to maintain things in 2 different locations. The thing you have to keep in mind is maybe you have a marketing team or you have some marketing resources internally who want to be working on the website and want to be adding additional information. Well, what's great is we give them a content management system to add all this additional information to your products with tools that they're used to. So they don't necessarily need to be inside the ERP to be able to do this. And then, of course, what would a website be if I wasn't trying to also upsell and cross-sell the customers? So I'm showing them additional items to try and increase their cart totals, as well as I can show them substitute items if this one is out of stock, because I can show them stock information right out of Dynamics NAV and Dynamics 365, so they have a good idea of when they're going to be able to get these products. So I'm just going to add this suit and these shoes to my cart, and we'll have the cart drop down here to let me know that it's been added, and I'll go ahead and place the order. Now, because I'm an existing customer, and this goes for both retail and wholesale, what's going to happen here is everything's already filled out for me because I already exist. If I'm not an existing customer, I can always be given the chance to create an account. I can check out as a guest, or if we want to lock it down completely and it's strictly B2B, and you need to have an account to be able to access it, you can also set that up. So it's very simple configurations in K-eCommerce. And then from here, we can always ship it to different locations, of course. So if I want to ship it to another location that's saved to my account or add a new address, I can. For shipping, we work with solutions like UPS, or carriers, I should say, like UPS, FedEx, Canada Post, Purolator, USPS. You can also give them the opportunity to pick it up in store. So my example here with this suit, maybe I want to pick it up in the store because I might need some alterations to it. So there's a number of different options there. We can pull in the exact carrier rates if we want to show the customer what it's going to cost, or for those B2B scenarios, you can always make it so that you can invoice the customer for shipping costs later. I see some shipping instructions here. I can always collect a PO number if I want to. I have my order review with my shipping total, my costs. Everything is also multi-currency as well, so it's all based on Dynamics. So if you want to sell in different currencies, you can. And then for taxes, if you are working inside Dynamics, we can work off of that. We also do work with CCH, which is another product you'll see here in a few minutes. But we are able to pull in the tax information from a number of different sources so you can tax accordingly on the website. And then, of course, we have coupons. So this is for discounts and rebates and free shipping if you want to give that out to your customers. If you don't want to use coupons, you turn them off and they disappear altogether. And then lastly is the payment information. K-eCommerce is PCI, or Payment Card Industry Level 1 certified. So that means that any credit card information that goes through the website will always go through the website hosted with K-eCommerce, will never end up on your or in your infrastructure or on your databases at all. So you don't have to worry about the security liability. K-eCommerce takes that on for you. And we have the flexibility to offer out a number of different payment methods on the website. So you're not limited to the single payment method that you have in Dynamics. You can give them on account or terms billing. You can give them credit cards, gift cards. There's a number of different ways that customers are able to pay, and that will always be reflected on the website as well as in Dynamics. When I confirm my order, obviously I'm assuming most of you have ordered online at least once, so you've probably received that order confirmation email. So that's something the customer is going to get here. They're going to get that order confirmation email to let them know the order's gone through. Yourselves as the merchant, you're also going to receive the email to let you know that the order's gone through. So you're going to get that confirmation. And then for the customer, as I said earlier, the post-sale service isn't done. So they can always go in and they can see any of their past orders. They can see invoices as well. And what's great is if you do ship the product out to them and you add tracking information to Dynamics, that information will flow back to the website so that they can see the order tracking information, let's say from Purolator or FedEx or UPS, and they can track it right off of the website, or they can also go right through the email they're going to receive to let them know it's been shipped out. So that avoids the need for the customer to pick up the phone and call you to find out this information. So my order that I just created is order number W30 on the website, and 1030 is my Dynamics number. So I'm just going to reload Dynamics 365. It's been a few minutes since I logged in. And so I'm just going to look up my 1030. And 1030 is going to be my order. So now we have to look at this from the perspective, your perspective. So I'm in Dynamics 365. So now I received the email, let me know that the order's gone through. So now as an administrator, I want to send this out. I want to get this over to my shipping department, and I want to get it on time to the customer. So I can pull up the order 1030. Same exact information, same items, same pricing, the taxes will be identical. Everything will be identical to as if I had typed it in manually. The major difference here is that it's all done automatically for you, and we're using Dynamics native web services and the business logic from Dynamics to push this information in, so we're not having to add additional business logic or anything like that. The beauty of it here, and the reason why I highlighted the W30 or the web number, is that if for any reason Dynamics NAV is down and it's unavailable, the website's never down. Your sales never suffer. So you're going to be able to have all of your orders still queuing up and coming in from your customers. Your customers are never going to know that your ERP may be down or may be unavailable. And then once it's ready and up again, we'll push the orders over to Dynamics so that you have them and you can continue on. But you'll still be getting those emails in the background. So at no time will your website be down. At no time will your sales suffer. Now, I mentioned a little bit earlier, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at the content management system. So on my site here, I have this nice page, frequently asked questions. And we understand that an e-commerce is not just for transacting with customers. You also want to give them as much information as possible. So you can add as many pages as you'd like, company information, frequently asked questions, really anything you'd like. But what if I'm expanding and this contact us information is now a little bit out of, out of date? So now I'm no longer just open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. Maybe I'm open until 11 p.m. because I want to help out customers in other markets that I'm now expanding into. So what I can do is I can go and change that really quickly. I'll go into the administrator here. I can go in and I can change a bunch of different information, but really my goal here is to go through the content management system. And the content management system is built so that it works for just about anyone. You don't need a technical background to do this. You can work through it with very little training. And if you do have that technical background, if you have somebody internally who's a designer or a web developer, they can also use this because we give them another tool set that's above what you would see here that I'm showing. So I'll go into my frequently asked questions page, and then I said we're now open 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. So what I can do is I can just pick up the content and then make that change accordingly. So I'll just go over here, make the change to 11, and we'll update it. And then we'll just refresh that page, and we'll jump back to it. Now it's 11 p.m. So just that quickly, I've made a really quick change to my site on my own without needing to call out to a supplier or a vendor. So I can do all of this on my own as the administrator and not need a technical background to be able to do it. So that's how it looks from the user's perspective when we're going through and we're buying. Obviously, this is just a really high level. So if you do have any questions, if you're you want to see more, if you want to talk a little bit more about what K-eCommerce can do for you, you can always contact us at sales@kecommerce.com, which you'll see at the end of the presentation. I'd be more than happy to jump on a call with you and show you anything you'd like to see. But for now, I really want to thank MS Dynamics World, everyone over there, as well as Jason for setting this up for us and giving us the opportunity to go through our solution.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. And we are now going to move on to James Karst, Senior Solution Architect at Wolters Kluwer. James, I am transferring control over to you now. Looks like your phone line is closed, so just open that up and we should be good to go.
All right, perfect. You should see the Wolters Kluwer slideshow here.
We do.
All right. And yes, thanks everyone for joining today. Today I'm going to talk about the Wolters Kluwer offering. As Jason mentioned, I'm James Karst. I'm the solution architect here, and we're going to present the tax solution that we offer with NAV and Business Central. So if you're on the call today, most likely you're interested in how a system can handle your tax requirements and processes within NAV. And there are certainly other solutions on the market that you can evaluate. I think that when you evaluate those solutions, there are really three main areas that you should take a look at to make sure that they have a strong offering within that solution set. So just to talk about why partner with CCH SureTax and Wolters Kluwer, and the first thing is the accurate rates and taxability. So CCH was built on a foundation of content. We have a very robust content team that's staying on top of when tax rates change, where they change, taxability rules as well. And the IRS actually relies upon this same content and has for the last 13 years to validate their compliance. And again, that's the same content that you would be running on and supporting within your SureTax environment that's fully integrated within the NAV system. The second thing when you evaluate a solution is making sure that you have a flexible integration that's supported by an internal team within that vendor. So CCH has their own NAV developers that are supported within house that have written that integration and support that as well. And over time, and we've supported NAV since the early versions of 2009, over time we've learned a lot about that integration. And we take those common requests from our clients and we build that into our standard offering so that we minimize customizations going forward. So we believe that we have a very flexible integration that can support your requirements to minimize those customizations. And it's also 100% extension-based, which is important to know as well, so that the code that's written here is easily ported into different versions of NAV as you update over time. Make sure that this ISV solution is not going to hold up your upgrade process. And then the last thing is the CCH SureTax system itself. It's proven, so it supports the widest range of industries, everything from telecommunications, energy, construction. Those are some of the most complex industries when it comes to sales tax. And if that solution can support those, it certainly can support your other retail needs like clothing and software and things like that. All right, and then a couple other just quick slides before we do a demo. I think one of the other interests when you look at a solution is you want to make sure that you can accommodate a quick go live time frame with your NAV ERP. So you don't want, a lot of times what happens is you're in the process of implementing NAV, you realize that you have some fairly specific tax needs that are difficult to support in a manual process or support within the native NAV tax tables. And so when you choose for a solution like CCH SureTax that can quickly improve that timeline to go live to avoid some of that manual setup to support your sales tax needs. So for example, we have an internal research team that is researching tax rates within 12,000 or more tax authorities across the U.S. and Canada and international as well. And we monitor on average 6,000 tax rate changes on an annual basis within those jurisdictions. So essentially you sign up for SureTax. It's a plug-and-play ready solution that can download all of the tax rates for all of these jurisdictions within a matter of minutes and then maintain those for you as well so that you don't have a team member worrying about when these 6,000 tax rate changes are happening or where they're happening. Also taxability rules. So we have a matrix of 1,500 or more classifications of products that we support and fully support taxability rules for. And within those, that product set, we monitor 100,000 taxability changes on an annual basis. So if you're selling, shipping and handling, for example, those fees can be taxed differently depending on where your customer is located. We can fully support that for you and maintain it as well. So if one state changes their mind and starts collecting tax on shipping and handling, you wouldn't have to do anything within the NAV instance to adapt to that new rule. We're downloading that automatically to the SureTax system. And then also Nexus. So this is a hot topic right now in the sales tax industry. So it's one of the biggest decisions since 1992 in regards to sales tax and the legal counsel. And they're looking at potentially changing the way Nexus is required or established within these states. So essentially, if South Dakota wins this court case here, that means that if you're an online business, you now might have Nexus in all 50 states that you could potentially sell to, which means you need to know what are the tax rates in all 50 states, what are the tax rules in those states. It makes it very complicated for your tax team to scale into these new states when this could essentially happen overnight and make sure that you're compliant there. So with the SureTax system, we make that scalability very easy and essentially seamless for your users to identify those new states and stay compliant. And then also we would provide a way for you to properly maintain your tax exemptions for your customers and make sure that you're exempting your customers appropriately. All right, and before we get into demo, I like to have a little fun with sales tax and just ask yourselves, I'm not going to ask you to raise a hand or provide an answer, but which of these treats is taxable in North Carolina, which at a glance they would appear to be almost identical, just a different brand name, so why would one be taxed differently? And the answer is actually Twizzlers. So Twizzlers are tax exempt in North Carolina because their ingredients contain flour, and Hot Tamales does not. In North Carolina, anything that contains flour essentially is treated as food and is therefore tax exempt. So this is just an example of complex tax rules that our system could automate for you. And even if you don't sell, food and beverage items, something I always like to point out here is that almost every business purchases these things for their snack rooms or for their break rooms for their employees. And then if you're buying from an out-of-state vendor, you need to self-assess use tax. So when you look at systems, make sure that if you are purchasing from out-of-state vendors, you purchase a system that can also automate the use tax calculation on your AP side, because you certainly don't want to be paying tax for Twizzlers in this case if Twizzlers is actually tax exempt. All right, so just real quick, we'll switch over to a live presentation. Within the NAV system, you can see how our system integrates with the order workflow, and you can see how we automate the calculation of sales tax and the decisions of sales tax so your users don't have to be responsible of those. So I've got an order that I've already created here with the software item here. So let's say I'm selling software as a service. You can also think of this from a purchasing side, as I mentioned. Almost every business is going to be purchasing software as a service going forward. And so you need to have a system that can calculate those appropriate taxes. So if I just trigger a tax calculation within NAV, and one way to do that is to change the quantity. So it's actually going to reassess tax. When it does that, it's actually calling out to our SureTax system and asking SureTax, hey, what are the tax rates for this particular address? And SureTax is going to make that determination for you. It's going to look at what's being sold. So in this case, it's SaaS software. And it's going to return back the appropriate taxes back into NAV. So your users don't have to worry about what tax group is defined here, or what are the tax rules set up for that tax group. As you can see, we'll use a default for every single item that you sell. Based on a predetermined configuration, SureTax can automatically determine the tax rules for these things that are being sold on this item or on this order. And then also, your users will never have to worry about the tax area code. Our system is looking at the full address that's used here, and it's making that determination for you. It's looking at the zip code information, the street address information, and it knows exactly what tax jurisdictions are appropriate for that address and which ones are not appropriate. So your users, again, don't have to worry about whether or not this address is in the city limits or outside the city limits and so forth. And now that we've calculated tax, you can see that amount field is populated here. It looks like there is definitely tax that was calculated. Your users are probably used to going to a statistics screen here to see exactly what that tax amount is. So they can still do that with our system. We're just going to populate the native tax fields here so your users can go to the same places they always would to see what those tax results are. But we also provide users a way to see a further breakdown of those tax results. So we have what we call the sales tax results screen. This is a CCH SureTax screen that your users will have access to, and it gives them a breakdown by line item. So if you see, I can select this first line item, and then I get a taxes returned result here that tells me that's just a city tax that's being charged here for this software as a service. Now if I want to, I can actually add a second line item, and we can take a look at something that's taxed a little bit differently. So if I go to my item list here, let's say that I also want to sell this software, or sell this customer canned software item. And specify the amount. We'll just charge the same amount for this software license. And you can see now, tax is also associated here. So I get a completely different tax amount for this second line item, which is the canned software, versus the first line item, which is the software as a service. And if I want to, I can take a look at these results. And the breakdown here, still on the first line item, I'm just charging that customer city tax for software as a service. But for canned software, I get completely different results. I need to charge this customer state tax, city tax, but also there's local districts that apply to that particular address for this product. But the goal in mind is that you want to get to a point where your users can create these sales orders, and they no longer have to worry about how is software as a service taxed in this particular address, or how are hot tamales and Twizzlers taxed in this particular sales order. We can automatically determine that for you, feed it back into NAV, and if these tax rates change, if the state tax of Colorado changes their rate next month, it'll automatically be downloaded to the SureTax system, so your users no longer have to worry about keeping up to date with that information. And one last thing that I would like to point out here, then the SureTax system, this is the back-end system. It's hosted, so it's completely cloud-based. And this system is going to maintain some configuration, but most importantly, it's containing all of your tax rates and tax rules that we talked about. So whenever that changes, we're automatically downloading that information to the SureTax system. There's no manual intervention involved to keep up with that. So apparently my tax rate, or my password just changed here. All right, let me switch over to the different SureTax account. We're running just a little short on time, but I think I can log in to show you what we needed. Unfortunately, my password's expired, and I don't remember the original one. What we were going to show you is just how you can scale into new states. So if that Wayfair court case does change next month, or let's say Dakota does win that court case, you needed to scale into new states and stay compliant there. You can log into SureTax. We have a configuration screen where it's literally just a check of a button to support those new states. Your tax team can go in there, click a checkbox, and fully support and be compliant within those new states as far as tax rates and tax rules go. They're not going to be required to research any tax rules for those new states that you might need to scale into. And then one last thing is as Ryan mentioned, so with K-eCommerce, if you have an e-commerce site that also needs tax calculated on there, SureTax has an open API that you can fully integrate with to any e-commerce platform out there to make sure that you're getting consistent calculation results within your shopping carts as well on your e-commerce site. Right, and so just on behalf of CCH and Wolters Kluwer, we would like to thank everyone for joining here. If you do need to contact us, there's some contact information here. This will also be provided to you at the end. You can log into our website, check us out there. You can also reach us out on the App Source and review our app within Microsoft App Source for CCH or text and receive our contact information there. Thanks, everyone, for taking the time today and joining and learning about Wolters Kluwer.
Great. Thank you, James. And yeah, you raised a great point there. I'm interested at the end, too, to hear sort of how people who are currently running now perhaps are thinking about e-commerce or thinking about sales tax and use tax automation or managing it today. Some interesting questions there. We are going to move on now to our next presenter, and that is Doug Bertram of Metafile. So, Doug, welcome to the event. Just getting
Great.
your
Thanks, Jason.
access set up. All right, the floor is now yours.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Let me switch and share one of my screens over here.
All right, we see that.
And perfect. And I'll make it full screen there. So welcome, everyone. As Jason said, my name is Doug Bertram. I'm one of the regional managers for a company called Metafile, and we're best known for our MetaViewer solution, which is a document management, content management, imaging type of solution, and we've been helping companies automate their paper-based processes since 1979. So we've been around in this industry, as well as quite a few other industries in terms of integrating with different financial systems and those types of things. So today's webinar series here is really kind of to showcase and give you kind of a very brief overview of what kinds of things we can do to help you automate your paper-based processes as it relates to your Microsoft Dynamics NAV and Business Central Edition solution. And if you have some other questions, following up today's webinar, it's best to reach us at info@metafile.com, and we can set up a one-on-one demo, or kind of maybe talk to you with you one-on-one on your specific challenges and things there. And Jason will actually have that information up at the end of the presentation as well. So, we've actually provided solutions for MetaViewer, Metafile being the company, MetaViewer being the product that we're best known for. It really is an enterprise-wide document management system. It can be used for all kinds of different applications. We'll talk a little bit about those later. One of probably the hottest areas, or one of the things we're most known for, is the AP automation and processing invoices. That seems to be the most interested type of solution that people want to start with. And so because that is such a hot product for us, we actually developed what we call our fast track solution, which is a best practices approach to AP automation. And so when my implementation teams load the software, they load this best practices solution. It prompts them for, where's your NAV system and all those types of things, so we can get the system up and running very quickly. But everything that is in the entire solution is all developed by us in our headquarters here in Rochester, Minnesota. So it is actually very customizable, that we can actually make some adjustments to maybe how better fits your business practices. But as a big picture overview of the solution, if we take MetaViewer and we apply it to those challenges of processing invoices, it starts by capturing those invoices as soon as they come into your organization, whether they be paper or electronic. And it's really this electronic side that we try to focus on with our clients. So if you can start working with your vendors to get more and more of them to email you invoices, we can set MetaViewer to watch one or multiple email boxes and prevent that paper from ever happening, but more importantly, preserving the textual information that that document contains. We watch those email boxes, and when we pull a document in, it goes right into this Invoice Accelerator tool. This is a tool that we created to intelligently read that document like a human, like you guys can. So we kind of look for key, we would call them anchor words, but things like invoice number, invoice date, things like that. And so then we extract that data out of that document. We use the data to index or identify what that document or transaction is all about in our system, but ultimately we're going to have some web services that are going to push and create that transaction in your Microsoft Dynamics solution. So it really eliminates the data entry into MetaViewer as well as NAV. We're going to create those transactions over there. So really, that electronic side is the ideal solution because nobody has to open up mail, nobody scans anything in, everything comes in, we extract the data, workflow it as appropriately, and interact with the NAV quite extensively. We also realize that it's probably not feasible to get everything in electronic format. If you do have paper documents, you can use a scanner or multifunctional copier of your choice to scan documents into MetaViewer. If you do scan documents into the system, they are just a picture. there is no text for us to extract, and that's why in my diagram here I've got this extra little box that says scanning OCR. If we pull a document into the system and we can't find any text, it's going to take an extra second or two, and it's going to run it through that process. And really what that process does is it looks at all the dots on the page, or all the pixels, if you will, and any dots that are touching each other, it says, oh, that's a 1 or a 6 or a G, essentially converting that picture back into text, and then it feeds into that exact same tool, that Invoice Accelerator tool is going to extract the data and deliver that document into workflow. Workflow, when people first hear workflow, they think of routing documents around from person to person, and that's a big part of what our workflow does. We actually also do quite a bit of data validation and in tight interaction with your NAV system to validate things so people don't have to do that work. And so from a routing perspective, there's two in that fast track AP automation type of solution. We've really built two broad workflows, one dealing with invoices that are non-purchase order related, and then a different one that is related to purchase order related invoices. So the non-purchase order related invoices, they typically flow through the organization with approval and coding. We're interacting with NAV to pull back the default account codes. When you code an invoice in Metaviewer, it's interacting with your rules within Microsoft Dynamics to make sure that you're entering valid information. And then we're routing everything electronically from one person to the next and getting all the approvals. Once all that has happened, we're going to push and create that transaction up in your NAV system. Purchase order related invoices, most organizations don't really want to route them around for approval. The whole purpose of creating the purchase order was you were expecting these goods to come in at this price, and you would receive those goods into NAV or expecting them to come in any day. So when you get the invoice, you don't really need to route it around for approval. What we need to do is reconcile or match that invoice to the receipts of the open items on that PO within your Microsoft Dynamics solution. So once that happens, then we can create that transaction that's all matched to the receipts or the open items in NAV, and then create the transaction. So a lot of that data validation and interaction with that. We also do duplicate checks throughout the process to make sure that there's nothing in NAV or in Microsoft or in our own product that would flag an invoice as duplicate. If it is, we're going to put it in an exception queue and somebody can deal with the exceptions. If everything passes, they continue to just flow through the workflows as appropriate. And then lastly, retrieval is kind of the last aspect of the solution, and that's really just giving everybody access to the documents when and where they need them. Our system is actually, the nice thing about that is there's no software to load. It is our standard interface is a browser of your choosing to talk to the Metaviewer server, whether you choose to install Metaviewer on your servers in your organization, or we actually can host your Metaviewer solution as well. And so depending on where your NAV is, whether it's hosted in a D365 kind of implementation or whether it's on-premise, in any of those cases, our standard internet browser is going to talk and to interact with your Microsoft Dynamics solution no matter where it's at. That internet browser that we use is our client interface is also mobile friendly. So if I logged into it with a smaller device like a phone or a tablet, the system is going to sense that I'm on a smaller device that doesn't have as large of a screen as I do here in my office. So it's going to adjust the information. So I can see all the same information. It's just presented in a easier to follow format on a smaller device, and then I can use the common gestures that I use with pinching and zooming and swiping and all those kinds of things. Okay, so with that, I'm going to jump over, since we do have a little bit of, I do have a little bit extra time here, I'm going to jump over to a virtual machine that I've got Metaviewer running in, and just kind of give you a real taste of what the solution would look like and how it interacts with NAV. So as I said, in our browser interface here, basically I've pulled in a document here. We've extracted the data with that Invoice Accelerator tool. We've interacted with your NAV system to validate the vendor, pull back things like payment terms and things like that from the vendor card. If we pull that back, we calculate due dates, early pay discounts if discounts apply. We calculate an early pay discount, as you can see here, if that applies, so that I can account for that and make sure that I'm capitalizing on all my discounts throughout the process. Are they a 1099 vendor, yes or no? So we can count for that in the workflow as well. So I kind of review this information. Below the document itself is the default account coding. for this particular invoice that was set up for that vendor record. So we can automatically code the invoice. If I wanted to edit this information, I could certainly do that. Or I could actually come in here if I wanted multiple account codes. I could select the company, what type of account it is, and here's where if I type a few characters of an account code, it communicates directly with NAV to display my account codes. And I think I timed out. Hang on a second. Let's log back in, go into my preparation queue, and we'll open up that document again. There we go. So if I add a row, type in a few account characters, and it goes and talks to that default account codes, and then I can either continue typing until I get to the one I want, or I can simply select from the list. I can also enter one of the descriptions. So if I put in cost of goods sold here, I can see all the account codes that have cost of goods sold in there, and so I can pick those. And depending on the main account, my selections for business unit are these, so I can say 005, and I can say 024 for my department, and I can put in $1,000. Okay, and we're going to reduce this one by 1,000 since I just increased that one. Everything ties out. I keep track of that. And now if I want to route this around for approval, I don't have to scan it and email it to somebody, all I have to do is click a button up here that says coded approval required. It talks to our system to say, hey, the last time we had a vendor from an invoice from this vendor and this company, who were the approvers? And we can specify out of the box up to 5 levels of approval. You can see I routed it to Department 100 last time. I could change and add Manager 100. I could add, I want the CFO to look at it, and I can change those defaults. And then to send it to that approver, I click the button that says send for approval. This prompts up to say, hey, you changed the defaults. Do you want to update the defaults, or do you want to leave the current? Is this kind of a one-off kind of thing? So I can, the system can get smarter as time goes on to make sure that we're saving clicks for people, and things can just route around as appropriately. So I'm going to just say leave the current. Away that invoice goes and routes on, and immediately that system is available to my approver. If I log in as Joe, who is my approver, he's got his approval queue here. He can see that document, and he can open that up. And we actually track an audit trail as to who's coding it, who's verifying it, who's approving it, and you can see all that information stamped on the document. So that just gives you kind of a taste of what the solution is. If I could jump back to my last slide here with a few minutes here to spare. Basically, that was really our AP automation solution, very, very brief. Like I said, if you shoot us an email at info@metafile.com, we'd be certainly happy to set up a one-on-one webinar, take maybe an hour of time talking with your folks and really interacting and show you the entire solution. Other expansions, as I said, MetaViewer is really just a document management at the core, and it can really be leveraged across your enterprise. Things that we do for other clients beyond the AP automation is accounts receivable, order processing, customer service kinds of things to have all that information available at people's fingertips. HR, all the new hire documents and legal contracts, that kind of stuff. Check batch approvals. Expense reports, almost every organization does some expense report processing. We do have some facilities there, some solutions there where I can actually use MetaViewer as my form. So I fill out the form in MetaViewer, I browse or attach my receipts and route around to my business, my manager and those types of things, and then create the transaction up in your NAV system. So those are some other solutions that we provide. I appreciate the opportunity to present at least a brief overview of what we do today, and look forward to maybe working with some of you following up from today's session. So with that, I can turn that back over to, I'll stop sharing, give that back to Jason, and thanks for your time.
All right, great. Thank you, Doug. And thank you to all three of our presenters. Nice job. And you've actually presented with the different offerings and solutions, a pretty nice, well-rounded way of taking a Dynamics NAV or Business Central solution really to the next level with much more sophisticated capabilities in a lot of key areas. Like I mentioned before, we'd love to take your questions now. If you have come in already, please enter yours into the Q&A or just share your experiences. As I mentioned earlier, what are you doing rather than using a solution like this, or what is your client, if you're a consultant perhaps, doing instead of adopting some of these capabilities. So let me get to the first question here. And this goes back to Ryan and K-eCommerce. It's asking, do you have a sales portal or sales representative tools?
We do. So right out of the box, we have a sales portal tool that can be used by your team internally. So either customer service or salespeople who might be on the road or in-house, they can access the sales portal with just a username and password. They don't need a license for it at all, so it's not seat-based. And so they can access the sales portal. They can view everything from customer information to past orders, and they can even create orders on behalf of customers, and we keep an audit trail of it as well. So if the customer ever does have an issue with an order that was created and it was created by a salesperson, we can see that. And so they can create orders on the fly from any device, be it a tablet, a smartphone, a laptop, and that'll go right across to Dynamics NAV or D365 Business Central. And again, like I said, they don't need a license to be able to do so. They can just have access to it. And you can also tailor it based on what their role might be within the organization, so limiting ordering. You can give them access to changing prices. There's a lot of functionality there. It's a great question.
All right, thank you, Ron. Next one, this one is for James. The question is, why can't I rely on the native functionality of NAV for sales and use tax?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, primarily there's actually pretty good functionality within the native NAV system to maintain your tax requirement. The problem is it's just a manual effort to go in and set it all up. If you're in multiple states, or if you're in states with home rule jurisdictions, that means within those states you need to go in and set up separate tax details and tax area codes for essentially every zip code that's out there and every city, county, and tax jurisdiction. So I think that the number of states that you're in certainly plays a major factor in whether or not you can whether or not that's feasible to set up and maintain manually going forward. So that's really the first primary. And then the second thing is that really all of this comes down depending on what you sell, so the taxability rules of what you sell, and how complex they are within the states that you're selling to. If they're fairly complex, where there's sometimes tier taxes where you charge a different tax rate if it exceeds a certain threshold or an item amount, or unit-based taxes, sometimes you charge a different tax based on the quantity that you sell. Things like that are exceeding the limitations of the NAV native tables, and therefore you would look for an outsourced solution to handle those complex calculations properly.
All right, great. Our next question, this one is for Doug. It's asking for MetaViewer, are you able to image enable NAV screens so that images can be retrieved or searched directly from the system?
Yes, we do have actually tools for that we can essentially we can do some like hyperlinking back to the document. So we're not actually physically attaching documents to screens. It's all related with our interface being browser-based. It allows us to create a URL that has the data specific to that particular transaction that you're looking at. And so when you click on it, it actually can execute a search through the browser interface and then pop open the document inside of MetaViewer in a browser window.
All right, great. Let me make a final call for questions here. I'll also just note we do have a survey that pops up after you leave the event, and any feedback you can provide afterwards is greatly appreciated. I'm going to get to the next question here, and this one's actually one I think we can actually give to everybody. It's asking, we have an initiative to incorporate reporting into any enhancement of our NAV solution. How does BI or reporting factor into your solution or your capabilities? So I'd like to maybe just go and let each of you take a shot at this one. Ryan, do you want to start?
Yeah, for sure. So any order that comes in from the website, what's great here is you can actually slice and dice your orders directly in NAV based on specific criteria. And so if you wanted to see, let's say, your sales figures from the website versus your outside salespeople, you can do that. You have ways of slicing and dicing up that information so that you could see a report accordingly and get a dashboard for it. And then if we want to just see stats from the website itself, see how it's doing, see how people are getting there, what your conversion rate looks like, all that information that's detailed, and really your marketing and sales teams are going to want to see that so they can measure and then act accordingly, or react, I should say. We do have full integration to Google Analytics, so it's the full e-commerce integration. So you can see all of the data coming from the website, and that's done right out of the box. And what's great as well is it's a free account with Google, so you don't need to pay any subscription service for it. So it's a nice little tool to be able to see what's going on the website, and then, like I said, you can also report on things directly in NAV.
All right, excellent. James, how about you?
Yeah, with our solution, we return back all of the tax details within the native tax tables in NAV. So any reporting add-on or even the standard reports out of NAV could continue to be leveraged as if you were using native functionality in NAV to do those calculations. So nothing, no add-ons as long as we're referencing the standard NAV tables should be an issue. They'll work with our solution. And then we also have our own reports that can be generated out of SureTax. And I would say most of our clients would depend on those to review their sales tax data. So you really have kind of two options there.
All right, great. And Doug, let me give this one to you too.
Sure. Yeah, reporting is actually very key to the system. I think one of the key advantages of making your operations more efficient is you free up some of your resources to do a little bit more analysis on spend analysis or vendor analysis and how things are, and maybe negotiate better discounts and those types of things with your vendors. So one of the things, all of the data that we're tracking, either extracted from the document, pulling back from your NAV system, or being applied throughout the workflow, like the coding and who the vendors are, who's approving what, all of that information is stored in our SQL database. And so then we can actually use tools like SSRS to build reports to help you analyze that data. Those reports, we can actually put hyperlinks directly to run that report right on a user's homepage within MetaViewer to introduce and display that information. And those reports can, when you get the results of the reports and what documents are associated with that report, you can also embed hyperlinks right in the body of that report. So if I click on it, it's actually going to execute a search and then find that document in MetaViewer and display it right in the browser for me. For smaller clients who don't necessarily have SSRS loaded or don't want to have published reports like that, we actually can deliver some of the same kinds of reporting in an Excel format that actually interacts with our database to be able to give you the same information, and then we can build pivot tables and things like that off of the data that we pull back to kind of display that information and by various avenues, like by account code, by vendor, things like that.
Very good. Well, that is our last question, so we're going to begin wrapping up here. Thanks to everyone in the audience for your attention today and for your engagement, for your questions. Doug, James, Ryan, thank you all for taking the time to be here and presenting to our audience. Really appreciate it. With that, we are going to start wrapping up. Again, we'd love your feedback in the audience, what you thought of today's event. Hope this is a great way to kick off June for everybody. We will be hosting more of these sessions going forward, so please be on the lookout for them. With that, we are going to wrap up. My thanks again to the audience, and have a great day.